let's talk about Blade for a second because he's worth playing. He's a lot of fun. He's a good hero. He's good for farming. Good for Cosmic Midtown Manhattan. He's pretty much good for everything, but he's not safe. He's very much not safe, and trying to play him safe kind of takes away a lot from the character himself. So go ham, go hard, but remember he's not a safe character to play. I tried the melee build. It's nice. It can be fun if you stack a lot of hit points, if you stack a lot of defense. You can kind of get a lot of fun out of his melee build, but range tends to be the way to go. For the most part, range tends to just be it's safer in a lot of ways. It's just you don't wade into certain death essentially when you're fighting a boss, and when you're fighting a boss and you walk into just some kind of random area effect damage, it's not a fun time, and you're going to end up getting dead more often than not. So range, stick with range, okay? I definitely went for the gimmick build. I went for the brutal damage just to get a signature off, just to pretty much drop a boss in a single hit, in a single signature. It is possible. I've seen it. I don't think I have the perfect gear for him yet, but having a good time with it so far, so I'm not really worried. Let's go into his talents and traits. There's a lot of his skills have interesting synergies, and a lot of them are kind of duplicates of each other. So you have toxin loaded grenade and hypertoxin grenade and toxin loaded gauntlets. They do essentially the same thing. They do roughly the same amount of damage. You have UV grenade. You have party crasher. Very similar. Stake through the heart. Stake thrower. Essentially the same thing. I'm not really sure about these. I love these because they're from the movies. They're one of my favorite part of the movies. It's just kind of like he's always a badass when he does it, but using it never really feels very satisfying. And the talents themselves, they interfere with the other things that you want to do. Like for instance, this row has a lot of really good options. So if, for instance, if you want to use Glaive Orbit, by the way, Unleash Glaive I don't really like just at all. It as a concept doesn't do a lot of damage. Doesn't really hit. It's a very slow firing attack, and you have to stand still while you use it, and it's not good for Blade because look how many hit points I'm on. I don't want to be standing. Then you have my namesake, and it transforms into Killing Stroke. Killing Stroke is really good, but and actually, technically speaking, does more damage than my namesake. For some reason, I find it very unsatisfying to use it. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it does what I want it to do. For me, on the good note, you can buff this through your infinity system. You can buff the area damage, which is really good, and because it does area damage, and the area damage is actually in a pretty wide area. You don't have to worry as much about missing it. Not that you really miss my namesake very much, but you don't. It has a pretty wide area you can generally hit with it. It just interferes. It interferes with this choice. It interferes with this, which adds a lot more damage to your grievous wounds. For instance, if you look at Whiplash, 4,700. If you take that away, it's 3,100. It's a huge drop in damage. I know you get a lot more out of Glaive Orbit, by the way. It's a really a good combo. Come in with Party Crasher, or drop down Hypertoxin Grenade, drop down with Party Crasher, Glaive Orbit when you land. It's a really good, satisfying combo. It clears whatever room you just walked into, pretty much. Good, but again, you're making this choice here, and I would rather have one of the other ones, honestly. And it doesn't really fit into this. The other problem is it doesn't really fit into the general build. So you're going to be walking around using Whiplash. You're going to clear everything. You're going to hit everything with grievous wounds. You're going to bleed everything. You're going to stack up your your bloodlust stacks, and then and then you want to unleash it with the by using your serum. And hold on, let's just get to the talents in a second. But the point is that you put Glaive Orbit into this rotation, and suddenly you have to choose something. Something has to go. I really, really like killing Stake Thrower. The execute damage on it is very, very nice. I would just rather do that because you have a rotation. You're going to go walk into the boss. You're going to use your signature on him, and then he might have some health left. So you're going to do Party Crasher on. You're going to do Hypertoxin Grenade and Party Crasher on him, and maybe walk away and bleed him a little more with Whittle into Kindling, and then you're going to finish him off with Stake Thrower. That's pretty much what's going to happen, and that's 8. That's the 8 things that are on your bar. I don't know how else you would do that. You need something to clear the trash in a terminal with, and that's what you have Whiplash for. That's why that's important. You can't clear the place with Whittle into Kindling because you have to stand still all the time. It slows you down. It's unsafe. I keep coming back to that. Blade is very unsafe. Look at my hit points. I have 21,000 maximum hit points. I pretty much died him to any kind of big boss area, so you have to be very careful with him. You move around a lot. I'm not saying I die with him all that much. I tend to die more from carelessness than actual mechanics in a room. I forget that because I'm Blade, I'm always bleeding, I'm always like 5,000 hit points. I need to be using my serum regularly, and at the same time you want to kind of save it for when you get to a boss fight, because you want to hit the serum first and then the signature. So let's just talk about his talents and traits. Fine, you do get 3% crit hit chance right off the bat, which is very, very nice, because you try to balance getting a lot of brutal strike rating with getting a lot of critical strike rating. I think it's easier to stack a lot of brutal strike rating, so having this as a flat amount is very, very nice. Your thirst will increase. You have thirst. You also have ammo, which kind of sucks as a mechanic. It just feels out of place because you're already managing your thirst. Why are you managing ammo as well? It regenerates very slowly, and you can't use Whittle into Kindling or Hypertoxin Grenade while that's happening. It doesn't feel pretty good, but that's not really all that important. The important part is thirst. So as you gain thirst, you're going to start to bleed out, and but while you're starving, whenever you hit somebody, you regenerate health. One of the reasons why you use Whiplash is because it hits 4 times, so you want as much health back as you can possibly get to counteract the bleeding out mechanism. You also lose damage when you're thirsty, but we're gonna get to that. Defense hero, life on hit is a base. So again, hit as much as you can. Get the damage reduction from using melee powers. That's how you're going to get through the level. I don't have a lot of defense. I don't have a lot of hit points, but I have a lot of life on hit. I find ways to create mitigation, and I'm going to survive the level. It's going to be fine. If you ever need to use pretty much using your med kit when you're starving is useless. It's completely pointless. The amount that you get is immediately used up by your starving mechanism. So just keep the serum up. Try not to kill too many enemies before you get to a boss fight, because you want your 10 stacks of Bloodlust. So let's talk about that. Never sated. You have your thirst generates faster. You gain stacks of you don't lose damage when you're starving. You gain stacks of Bloodlust when your grievous wounds do damage, right? No, when you just hit an enemy while you're starving, you gain stacks. And then when you use your serum, you get 5% extra damage and 10% critical and brutal damage per stack. So if it's 10 stacks, that's 50% damage increase and 100% brutal and critical damage increase. It's massive. So you definitely want to walk into a boss fight with 10 stacks of Bloodlust, starving, and have your serum available and have your signature available. That is why I'm sitting here at 100 hit points going back and forth and 10 stacks of Bloodlust because I want to show you what happens. If you're going to lose a little bit of damage when I'm going to lose a little bit of damage right now, because ideally there are some mechanics between my gear, like your unique item, which gives you more damage, and your if you're hitting bleeding enemies, you have Skrull Medallion, which is giving you damage based on enemies you defeat for a certain amount of time. So you definitely want to defeat a whole bunch of enemies and then walk into the boss and kill them essentially as soon as possible, because you want to keep all these stacks before when you use your signature. Vicious Wounds, it's really good for clearing the level. You want to walk through the level, you want to apply Grievous Wounds to anybody, and you just want to essentially keep walking. You never want to stop. So that's what you do. You just start Whiplash when you enter the level, and you just walk through the entire level using Whiplash, and you essentially clear everything. Like I said, Glaive Orbit's nice, it's fine, but I don't think it's worth it, because you can either pick the slightly better damage signature, which tends to be easier to hit, or you could pick extra Grievous Wounds for everything else, and it's a choice. You will be applying the Grievous Wounds to everything, so it's just nice to buff the damage that they do. Party Crasher, this row is really weird. It's nice. The hand cannon damage is very nice. I like using hand cannon. It does a lot of damage, but it doesn't apply Grievous Wounds. And what's nice about it is that after you've done your signature and you still have time left on your serum, you can use hand cannon, and it does more damage while serum is active. So it's a really nice finisher. You can actually kind of replace Stake Thrower with it. Maybe that's a way to go. Is just remove Stake Thrower, put in hand cannon. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just thinking right now. It's off the top of my head. But Party Crasher is nice. You get more. You're always critical with it, and you do double damage to somebody in the center. So again, after you use your signature, you can come in and just drop on top of the boss and do whatever it is you want to do. Patient Hunter is really probably one of my favorite traits on him, talents on him, because you not only do you do more damage with your signature, but you also reduce the cooldown every time you use it. A cooldown power, so you just get your signature back a lot faster than you originally did. So 30 seconds becomes much less. Let's put it that way. No, and not really interesting. I don't have any problems with ammo, not unless I stand there and I spam Whittle into Kindling, which I pretty much never do. So it's not a really big issue. And if you run out of ammo, Whiplash doesn't use any, so you could just run around using Whiplash and it's fine. Vampire Hunter. Let me get back to that. Maybe, I don't know. And this one's really nice. You bleed somebody. You already do 50% more damage to bleeding enemies, and this lets you do 50% more damage to bleeding enemies, and you get to shoot it 4 times instead of 2. Yeah, it's really nice. But this one, you get flat bonuses on your crit hit. You get flat bonuses on your crit strike. And it all increases when you're starving. So it's weird. It is very, very strange, because you want to use your serum before you use your signature. So you want to walk into your boss fight starving, but then you want to use the serum, and it gets rid of starving, and you lose a lot of bonuses. On the plus side is this lets you go through the level. This lets you get through the level, and it does give you that extra, on the base, right off the bat, you get the 5% damage, you get the 2% crit and brutal chance. So even when you're not starving, it is still a very good option to have. So that's pretty much it. I think that covers everything. good option. I like Green Goblin synergy for him because it buffs him while he's using Whiplash through the level. There's not really much else for it. There's not a lot of other great options. Yeah, definitely Doom. Definitely put Venom on him. This is very useful. I have Winter Soldier. I don't think there were any spectacularly better options out there for him. Try to because I'm using the ranged build. Try to avoid melee. Just try to stick to the physical options. I don't think there's anything spectacularly interesting when it comes to this benefits from attack speed, whatever. Yeah, none of this is particularly interesting. You have okay. The signature killing stroke is tagged as area. So if you can buff your area damage through your infinity system, yeah, okay, that's actually a really cool thing. And you end up buffing pretty much all of these skills. You buff Whittle into Kindling, you buff Hypertoxin Grenade, you Party Crash or Whiplash, not this one, but just not your Stake Thrower and your Namesake. If you change this to Killing Stroke, you will also buff this. So it's something to think about. You can maybe get more damage into Killing Stroke. Maybe you can... I'm not entirely sure if itemization right now favors ranged or melee, but area definitely for this one, since you don't have any ways of buffing directly single target range damage to your infinity system. Yeah. I would just avoid melee with Blade. That's pretty much it. Try to avoid melee and avoid standing still. That's pretty much it. You can jump in and do some damage, but then you have to be out of there immediately. So let's try Dr. Octopus for a second and see how this stuff works out. I'm going to use my med kit, and I'm going to use my serum, and I'm going to use my signature, and then just wanted to show you what the damage was. It was pretty good. I think I hit Brutaled for 5.5 million. It's definitely not the biggest one, and like I said, you want to get in there as quickly as possible after you clear the level, because you want to have some of those timers on those buffs that you had before still active. You don't want to be losing all that and then going in here, and that's how I get 5.3 million or whatever instead of getting 7 or 8. And if I had better rolls on my stats, on my gear, I'd probably have even higher. I just wanted to point out that I'm using one of the cosmic rings instead of this one. I'm not entirely sure which one I prefer, honestly. Other than that, I'm not really doing anything crazy. I could use Fragment of Twilight. I'm using anti-metal ammunition. I guess I could try it. I just get the 2000 brutal rating is really nice, and the 10% extra damage to enemies hit by my attacks. One of the other reasons, actually, I should probably mention, I'm using my namesake instead of Killing Stroke is because my namesake does 10 hits before it does the final one. That's the one that will always Brutal Strike. That's the one that does pretty much all the damage out of the entire signature. But the first 10, anything that you have that has a chance to proc, anything that you have that has a chance of giving you more damage. By the way, so like this one right here, the 27% chance to when you critically hit to give you this damage bonus, and then 3 times you stack it up, you can get +2 fighting. And wow, that's a really crap roll. So if you do my namesake, you have 10 hits to chance to proc this 3 times. Right? If I do Killing Stroke, it's 3 hits, and so you better have already proc this before you walked in. When you hit, gain 280 Brutal Strike rating for 8 seconds. Stack up to 5 times. Again, the same exact thing applies. If I hit 10 times with my signature now, with my range signature, I'll get those 5 stacks. If I use Killing Stroke, I have to have gotten those 5 stacks before I walked into the room. So that's just a really mechanical oddity. All right, guys, thanks for watching.